So, okay, so you have your gift on the football field. You go into the NFL. What comes next? Because you're not in the NFL anymore. So what happened? Yeah. What was that transition? Talk to us about that transition from the NFL.
That was I guess the second crappy part of my life phase-wise. So, imagine that all I've done all my life that I know that's giving me love is the game of football, and it's kind of taken away by injury. It resulted in me, no more than 3 years ago. Like I drove off. I sent a text message to a few people and said, please tell my children who their father was. The idea is like, well, what is it that people need to get faith?
Hi, it's Michelle Talbert, host of Her Power Hustle. This is episode 16, and we are talking with Anthony Trucks. We are trusting our hustle. We are talking about his transitions in life from foster care to adoption to the NFL to his marriage to how you can trust your hustle and lead a successful life, not based on what your outer surroundings are, but what's inside. So let's go.
Welcome to the Her Power Hustle podcast with your host, Michelle Talbert. Women are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs, yet are the least likely to have a mentor or receive the guidance and advice they need. That ends here today. Her Power Hustle is the power resource for women entrepreneurs like you. So whether you're hustling full time, side hustling, or gearing up to hustle, get ready for a conversation packed with the information and tools you need to hustle on.
Welcome to Her Power Hustle. I'm Michelle Talbert. This is the place to be for inspiration and motivation for the perspiration associated with being a woman entrepreneur. I am so excited that you've joined me today. We are talking with Anthony Trucks. He has a brand called Trust Your Hustle, and of course, you say hustle, my ears perk up. I hope you are having a great week. I want to jump right into our conversation. We are going to talk a bit about sort of his own life's journey and what that impact had on how he now works with people to lead to their own success. You will also hear that we do our usual power boost, and if you are a woman-owned business and you would like to be highlighted on the show, please do send me an email at michelle@herpowerhustle.com. You can also fill out the contact form on the website herpowerhustle.com. Today's show notes can be found at herpowerhustle.com/hustle. I look forward to speaking with you on the other side. Welcome to Her Power Hustle. I am just so excited that you are joining me today because I have a really awesome guest. And of course I say that every episode because I am so fortunate that every episode it's true. I do have an awesome guest. And today is no different. We are joined by Mr. Anthony Trucks. And let me tell you about this guy. He is the founder and president of Trust Your Hustle. So anyone who has the word hustle in the name of their brand gets a free pass to come on Her Power Hustle. You already know that. He has a company that is created to do one thing, and that is to teach you to live an unexpected life once you learn to trust your hustle. This company is the culmination of a life full of unbelievable ups and downs that landed Anthony's heart in a position to share his message across the globe to improve lives. Now wait till you hear his story and multiple stories. So let's get right into it. Mr. Anthony Trucks, welcome to Her Power Hustle. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you, sir. So there are so many beginnings, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So let's start at the first beginning, the childhood beginning, the beginning where you started life in the East Bay. Let's talk a little bit there.
So you want to start from when I was born and that whole back, everything?
Let's start from conception. How about that? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, not. I was just a twinkle in my dad's eye. I think
you have a story related to foster care. I mean, let's talk about that journey because I think let's just pick a couple of vignettes across your incredible ups and downs and experience and unexpected life.
Yeah, I'll find that I try to sum it up, but summing never does it good enough justice. But I'll just start and we'll kind of go as it goes. I was born in Martinez in 1983. After about 3 years, I then had 3 other siblings, so I was one of 4. And my first memory is my mom calling my name, and I vividly remember this, calling my name from the house, and I went out to the backyard, and she's crying, gives my hand to a woman I've never met before, and the woman drags me to a car, buckles me in, and that was the entrance of me into the foster care system in the world that was not too inviting. I was beaten and I was starved and I was tortured and just a lot of the things that I experienced in life, period. But this was all before the age of 6. And at that point, I got to a place where I just didn't feel like I was worth anything. And I remember getting picked up and moved to what would be my last foster home. It was an all-white family. I'm African American, so there was always that kind of diverse, kind of aspect just living there. And then the city I was in wasn't very diverse at the same time. And so I had a lot of weird upbringing, just issues to deal with. I wasn't even adopted until I was 14 because my biological mom, she is what's called a pathological liar. So she had a lot of weird things going on in her life, and we were affected by it. And so for years of my life, I lived in a household with 2 rules. I remember the garage, you'd open the garage and you'd see roaches scatter. There's mice in the food. It was weird. So I was bad at school because at home I didn't have a good home life. My first foster dad was a drunk, and I remember him beating me, and sadly, at that time, I assumed it was normal to be beaten like that. And once I got adopted, the first thing that I wanted to do was something that for most people is not a big deal. But for me, I got to play football. And for me, it was a really different kind of course of action because all my life I felt like I was worthless. For 14 years old, I felt like I just fell to the earth kind of thing because that's how I was treated. And for the first time, I got this opportunity to feel what it felt like to be appreciated, in a sense of the world. Not like my family who adopted me. I knew my family appreciated and loved me, but the world didn't give me any love. And so when I got cheered for catching a football or making a tackle, it was like this addicting, positive feeling. And so I fought to have that. And for many years of my life, I was horrible at football, but for many years of my life, I kind of had this up and down. I eventually got really, really good at it. My adoptive mom contracted multiple sclerosis, diagnosed with it around the age of 15, so about a year later. And there's a lot. High school was interesting because in high school, I don't have, I guess you could say, like any ebonic tone to how I speak. So to that perspective, I talk like a white person. So I was called Oreo, and I didn't really fit with the white guys because obviously I was black. And at this time, so you still had those kind of little diverse segmented areas of schools. So the only place I could find my being was on this football field. So I did that. But I had a situation where I did poorly in a game and it shot spirit down. And I kind of bottled up. And for the whole rest of the year, it was just a wash. And then it wasn't until the end of the year that something happened that really kind of catapulted me to a different mindset. Was I got to where I was sitting in my room staring at a wall, and I felt like, why do I have to feel like this? Like, why do I have to feel that because I'm not able to get the love from the world that I'm not good enough? Or why is that just because my mom didn't want me, I'm not good enough? And really weird epiphany to have at 15, but it kind of spurred me to desire to be great. And for me, like, I didn't want to have to like great be this version of great in comparison. Like the comparison great is I'm not a criminal. It allowed me to climb into eventually earning a college football scholarship, playing in the NFL, having a son. I got married. What else did I do? I opened a business, which was a gym I ran for 6 years. I traveled the world and spoke. I became a consultant, which I still am, for like $1 billion company nearby where I live. Done a lot of interesting, cool things. Behind the scenes of all that, a lot of things happened too. What was that?
I was getting ready to stop you because you definitely went ahead, and I know there are a couple other little stops along the way.
I was going to go back and cover them.
I know you were, but we're going to chat a little bit because I think you said some really great things that I want to make sure that that our listeners heard. And part of that was that there was that moment where you're sitting on the bed, you say, and you look at the wall and you just have this epiphanal moment. And a lot of times I think there is a voice within us that we can't identify. We don't know where it comes from. We can't necessarily point to any specific event, but something inside of us tells us it's time to be great. We deserve to be great. We deserve better. There's something that
there's this, there was no one person who led you along the path. So please continue.
Yeah. So for me, there wasn't a distinct individual. A lot of people helped me along the way. So I met coaches and, I had different people that were just kind of in my life, but no one was solidly there. The big thing for me was I realized that a lot of my life I was alone, and so I had to learn to be very good alone. And with that, I had to realize that, again, I'm not infallible, but I have to have some compass. And my compass, which kept me on track, was right and wrong. And so right was my mentor. What I mean by right was the wrong thing is usually easy to do. The wrong thing is, if I have a goal, I'm going to go hang out with my buddies, or I'm going to go do drugs, or I'm just going to watch one more TV show, or, I'm not going to work hard in the workout. But for me, what was right was the hard thing. And so I have over my life learned that the hard thing is okay to do. It's the right thing to do, and that's what guided me. So when I had decisions to make or, things that took a little extra effort and I knew it was right to do it that way, I just did it that way. And it's allowed me to have a great amount of willpower, which allowed me to accomplish a lot in my life. But that's honestly been my best mentor, oddly enough.
No, that's not odd at all. I do think that a lot of times we do have an internal compass, and it's sort of I studied human development in college, and it's that nature-nurture. Where's that balance? Where's that line? A lot of our life is impacted by what's external, but I do believe that there are things that are inside of us that drive us as well. So for you to have such a strong understanding of right and wrong, regardless of what the external circumstances were, that to me, that makes sense. It's not unheard of or weird in any way.
Cool.
Talk to us about obviously your story is extremely rich. And so I'm going to tease out just a few parts, which I know won't even do it justice, which is why we're going to make sure that people know how to get in touch with you so they can continue along this journey with you, because I'm enjoying being on a journey with you.
Thank you.
With your nightly 90, and, you have some really great information that you share about the hustle that we'll get into. But talk to us about, on the field, it seems like that's camaraderie, that's like we're all in this together. But you even spoke to, and I think a lot of us who are, have a certain tone or intonation to our voice have dealt with that whole, you talk white, you don't sound black, you're not black enough, you're too black, you're not white. It's sort of fitting in. So this dichotomy between being on the football field as part of a team and then also not fitting in off of the football field. And how did you sort of navigate that as you developed into who you've become?
First time I ever got this question, and this is a good one. This makes me think. Usually I don't get questions I have to think about too much.
Oh, well, you come to the right place, and I do understand.
I have. It's funny. I did a speech last weekend, and one of the things I say randomly is, I'll say, I was raised by an all-white family, which is why I talk like this. It's like a funny joke kind of thing, but some people get the joke, I guess. But when I got finished, she walked up and she's like, I don't want you to take offense to what I'm saying, but, that kind of bothered me. And I'm an open guy. I have no ego in the sense of, like, you can't talk to me. Like, please explain. I'd love to know. And she says, I feel like that it puts a weird shadow on black people who speak like that, because really, she's like, I think it's just an education thing. And it puts this precursor that says that all white people are smart because they talk like that, which I don't know if this is going in the right direction, but essentially I got where she was saying is it's not so much that you're white, black, Chinese, Asians, why you talk like that, but it's because you're smart and you educated yourself. So you speak with, a vocabulary, and you have an eloquent way of how you talk, and it's just because you're smart. And so for me, I saw exactly where she was coming from, but I also had to kind of counteract it and say, at the same capacity, there are very well-educated people who still have a slang of tongue. So it's not like I was trying to be derogatory, but the reality is that you kind of stand out when you talk like that. When you start tying in how I talk at the football field and those kind of things, we all, and whether it's the field of having, people around at your team or off, and being, off the field and in the regular world, I think what I learned was if you are just really, really good, you're great at something, which comes from effort, not from just luck and blind, just luck falling into something. Like, you got to work at stuff. It doesn't matter. People will follow the person who is doing very well. It doesn't matter if your face is orange. Like, if you're great at something, people want to aspire to what you do. So what I found was when I was playing sports, I came in, I was a poor kid. I had my first pair of cleats that were 2 sizes too big, so I got this Scotch tape and I taped up a bunch of toilet paper to kind of fill that space, and I put it in my shoes, and that's my cleats, because they were on clearance. And the other kid didn't have that. Some kids had brand new cleats, brand new gloves, brand new helmet. Their parents drove in Mercedes Benzes, and I'm coming in this 1970, Cutlass. It was just, but here's what it was: is I was faster, I was stronger, I was a better athlete. So on that football field, I don't care what I was wearing, how I looked, how I spoke, I performed better. And that gave me a mindset of how I want to look at how I approach life. So when I went into this real world outside of the sports and being this team where you're supposed to group together, I want to be the kid that doesn't matter if I come in messed up shoes, because I had to tie paper clips on my shoes to keep them together at some point because we couldn't afford shoes. But I outdid people in my sheer ability to just excel because I read, I write, I learn, I speak to people, I open myself up. And so in that capacity, I've been able to be successful. And if you take, the letters behind my name or the things I've accomplished away, And yeah, I guarantee people make fun of the person I am and how I act, but because of the things I've accomplished, they really can't say anything.
Can't knock the hustle.
You cannot knock
that's
it.
the bottom line. That is the bottom line. If you are good at what you do, and when you are operating in your gifts, you can't help but be good at what you do when you operate in your gifts and you work toward them, right? I mean, there's work involved.
Yes.
But when you're operating there, people are just naturally drawn to you. They can't even explain it. There's just something about you. I don't know what it is. I'm operating in my gift. And so, so you have your gifts on the football field. You go into the NFL. What comes next? Because you're not in the NFL anymore. So what happened?
Yeah.
What was that transition? Talk to us about that transition from the NFL.
That was I guess the second crappy part of my life phase-wise. So, imagine that all I've done all my life that I know that's given me love is the game of football, and it's kind of taken away by injury. So I go home, and I have my degree in kinesiology because I wanted to stay around sports and train people in some capacity. And so I went home, and I did what the smartest thing a person could do is, with no business sense and no idea of how to run a business, not even having job skills. I opened up an 8,000 square foot gym with no clients, no business plan, and no idea what I was doing.
What?
So, yeah, it was amazingly stupid idea. But the funny part is, it thrived. Like we had a lot of ups and downs. Don't get me wrong. There was a time when I owed the landlord $16,000. I had $4,000 I could use. I had 2 weeks to pay it, or they were going to close the gym down. They were going to come have the sheriff evict me. And this is kind of one of the big things where I didn't realize till later, but I applied the concept I have of trust your hustle to all this. And so the gym, it rose from there I made $7,000 one month. The next month I made like 12, and the next month was like 23,000. Paid all the debt back. I was good somehow, randomly, couldn't tell you how, except for the sheer grind. But that was part of that story, and I progressed to do a lot of cool things. The background of it, where I say it was tough, was I was married, and I eventually had 3 kids, and so into the second year of the gym, we had twins. So now I have my oldest son, I have my twins, and me and my wife, we've been together since high school. So we grew, but didn't really grow, if that makes sense. And so we really didn't have the ability to experience life outside of each other, but that really wasn't the factor. A lot of it came to just we are in a real world now. We've been together in high school, which is sports and free time. College, sports, free time. NFL, sports, free time. Now I have a job. Now I have to go to work. Now I'm gone from the house, and it's not the same situation. And I'm prepared for it. I don't think she was prepared for it. There are parts where I would say I neglected a portion of a relationship 100%. I take ownership for it. So together we got ourselves to a position where, the choices had to be made, and she made the wrong choice, and she ended up having an affair with someone. And it was, I wish I could say it was some quick and dirty thing, but it was long, strung out, and it really ruined my heart. The biggest thing for me was, growing up, I didn't have my family. And so having my family is this amazingly unique thing to me. The fact that my son now, who's 10, lives with his dad, it's mind-boggling. It's weird to other people that they don't, but for me, it's amazing. I didn't know my dad or find him until I was 20 years old. So it's just this difference. And so for having, that pulled from my life, I had no base. My foundation was removed from my life, and it resulted in me, no more than 3 years ago. I drove off. I sent a text message to a few people and said, please tell my children who their father was. And it really was just this hole I was in. I didn't want to be here. It all just kind of came to this crashing head. My buddy, I was watching this UFC fight, and he saw I was kind of still distraught, and he says, Anthony, this is your reality. And then it all just sunk in. And I remember I felt this wave of, I don't know how else to explain it, but just violent emotion. It wasn't all negative. It was just this weird, I could not handle it. I just couldn't stop crying. It was everything coming out. And I didn't want to feel it anymore. And so I drove off. GPS on my phone was what allowed the police to find me. So, if it wasn't for that, I may not be on the phone with you now. And I ended up coming back home and kind of reshifted and just kind of got my head back on little by little, kept progressing forwards, ended up, getting divorced, even though I tried to work on it even after that. And went to the world, and I still had my business going, and I did the single man life, which I'm not proud of in certain things. I didn't do anything illegal or anything, just things that I don't. We're definitely not in line with my family.
We have women who are listening. We understand what you meant. We know it's not illegal in terms of the law and the penal code, but maybe possibly some hearts. We understand.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, that's the funny thing is, I never disrespected a single woman. I was so when I say wrong, I mean like I'm not a big person, like I'm not sleep around kind of guy. Like I just don't operate like that. And so that's kind of more of what I meant. The funny thing was, is all the women, like when we would conclude, or whatever you want to call it, like it was always friendly and still an open. Like I still afterwards, not now, but at that point, like I would have them like call and we just talk and give them like life advice. It was really nothing was ever left negative. I don't know if it's like how I operate. I always respected every single person I was with or around. So I've never said that on any radio before. So hopefully it's new. But I progressed on, and I ended up at one point. I think what it was, I was not good alone. I'd been with somebody for so long. I needed to get comfortable with me. So at one point, I cut all communication with women off for like 3 straight months and just did nothing but just sit with myself. And it was hard at first, and then I got to a point where I was really content with just me. And when I found me, like, I'm happy, and that draws in all the good stuff, whether it's another person or, the people around you that are, they want to hang out with you more, or just opportunities in life. Just when you're good, the world feels it. And so I was, everything was going good. And then last year in April, my adoptive mom passed from multiple sclerosis. And she was, this woman who would give me this amazing amount of unconditional love when really, like, I don't think I deserved it. I think at the age that I was, I didn't think I deserved it, but like, she was just there. And so at this point where I really had this heart to push out and help people, because I'd been in a gym and, I'd trained people for a long period of time, and I really just enjoyed the people, just talking and hanging out. And I wasn't very good at the business running because I didn't care about the money as much. I just kind of wanted just to hang out. It was like a haven, like a place I didn't have growing up. And so I was like sitting there just one day, and I was thinking, like, I really want to like help more people, but I can only help so many when I'm in this gym. And now when I say like help people, I don't mean like this cliche of I just want to help people, because a lot of people say that. Believe me, I know a lot of people just want to help people, and I when it gets to nuts and bolts, like they don't follow through. I see a lot. So for me, again, right is right. So when I say that, like, I live by it. You wouldn't even realize how many people I personally just talk to and help out free. Like, just they take my time now, and I enjoy doing it. It's fun, and I can't
How do you think Her Power Hustle was born?
It is, yeah.
Exactly right. Where you just are doing it, and then you realize, wait, I can actually have a platform to help more people.
Exactly.
Which is where Trust Your Hustle. So wait, I want to make sure that we have a really good, not necessarily chronology in terms of time, but chronology in terms of pinpointing periods. Okay, so now we are in the gym, but, we don't really care as much about the money. We really want to help people both on the internal and external side. Because what I like about that is that you work on people's physical body, but I think you also work on their internal, their mindset, their shifting, their hearts, and perspectives. So let's talk about the transition from I have a brick-and-mortar building to I'm touching lives electronically and closing down the building, but broadening the reach. So Trust Your Hustle is born. Talk to us about that.
I found that I enjoyed the people more than the sets and reps, and I would see people, 12 days a month. And I really can't make this massive change. And we would talk a lot about life and how to model things, and people enjoyed just me and my stories and different things I would give them to try with their marriages or their kids or whatever it may be. And I was like, I enjoy doing that a lot, and I'd like to reach more people. So I literally dumped a business that I still to this day get phone calls for people wanting to train. This morning I got a phone call. I kid you not. This morning I got a phone call from someone wanting to still train. So what it is like I built this amazing place, and it was doing very well. So that 5-year mark, which is hard for business to reach, and it just blossomed. And then I said, it doesn't speak to my heart. I want to do more, and so I closed it, and I ventured out into a world that where I have no boss, but also no guarantee of a paycheck. But that being said, like I make more money now doing what I do with zero guarantee of a paycheck, all because in my mind, I treat people very, very well. I respect them, and then when I do the work, like they want to pay me. I don't know if that makes sense. Like they want to. Yeah, so that's kind of how I operate. And so now I do everything. I still consult for this large power company that's there this morning. I just dropped off these things called Gym in a Bag, which is essentially when I was on my hiatus, I had a girlfriend and she was a flight attendant. I created this gym in a bag. It's like a cinch sack. And so PhD liked the idea because their workers travel. And so I made 14 of them, and they loved them. And so I still do that.
Gym in a bag. I want to make sure people heard that. You create these gym in a bag. Now, are those available for people, or do you just do those for your corporate clients?
You know, it's odd. They asked me to make this last Wednesday, and I didn't sleep for 3 days to make this thing. It was an idea. That Trust Your Hustle. They're like, can you get this done? I'm like, yeah, in a few weeks. They're like, can you get done by next week Friday? I was like, yeah.
Sure, no problem. Sell it before you make it. That's the way to do it.
I did. Honestly, it's like it's a 100-page manual with everything from the workout, pictures of the exercises, pictures of the stretching, recovery, nutrition. It's a ton of stuff. And I put it all together, but they loved it, which is great. The idea of selling it like online, I've never thought about. They wanted it, so I made it. It's just something that sits in the back burner now. But yeah, if anybody wants one, I'll send you one. I don't mind.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so that, and I travel and speak around the colleges. And
so let's talk about what you do. Okay, so let's talk about that. Trust Your Hustle. What is Trust Your Hustle? What is that?
Oh, that's a good one. So here's what Trust Your Hustle is. I realize that for myself and for a lot of people, if I don't have a true, like if I want something, it takes a certain amount of effort, like work. I call it hustle. We all know it's hustle to grind, right? It's past that work level. It's the hustle. If I don't have a faith in my abilities to do something, I will not even take the first step. Like literally, you're not going to do it if you don't have this faith, unless you like jumping off cliffs. So the idea is like, well, what is it that people need to get faith? Because for me, I built that whenever I was doing, the high school football. Like when I was about to, basically crash out, I was like, I just got to work, because I had to grind to get my abilities up, and then I was able to be very good. I was like, well, shoot, I can do anything. And then the same thing occurred again when I almost lost my business. I could do anything. And then even with like this PG&E thing, this company I worked for, same thing. Like I was, of thousands of trainers, the one they chose. Like I got this faith in myself now. And so I'm like, why is it I have that? And so I started figuring out what it was, and I started researching, and I found that faith is underlied by belief. Like if you have a certain belief, you'll have a faith in yourself. But belief's a tough one, right? So like, how do you just believe in yourself? And a lot of guys and motivational speakers that just yell, you should believe in yourself. You believe in yourself, and you stand there like, yeah, I should. And you go into your car, and you're all on cloud nine.
I know.
Yeah, shaking the steering wheel. You go home, you're like, yeah, I'm going to get tomorrow, and I'm going to lose 100 pounds, and I'm going to take over the world. And then you wake up the next day, it's like, I don't want to do anything. So I was like, belief's fleeting. I'm like, why is it that people don't have this belief? And so I found what underlies belief is trust. And so trust is this emotion, and trust is this thing where if you have, say like love, right? It's something that happens by action. Like if I come and kick you in the stomach, you don't love me very much. It's a poor action. But if I come up and I'm nice to you, and over time we develop this positive relationship, well, those actions I do with our bring you flowers, take you on a date, right? You develop love. So trust is a similar thing in terms of actions, but here's where it's different is trust is kind of thing where like if I say, hey, I need you to pick me up tomorrow, and I trust you, when you say yes, I believe you're going to be there, right? So trust has to underlie this belief concept. But if I have poor actions from the past, so say I tell you, hey, I'm going to be able to pick you up tomorrow at 9 o'clock, but every time I've said that, I don't come, like I never show up, you don't trust me. And so I found it's actionable in the same capacity as love. So you have to have these successful past records for yourself to believe that you can move forward. So you have to develop that trust for yourself through successful actions that you've made. So if you say, hey, I'm gonna get this report done by 5 o'clock, and you never get it done by 5, you're not going to trust you can do it. Mm-hmm. And so you have to essentially go back in your life and bury these negative things you haven't done, because what happens is those negative aspects that you failed at, those actions you haven't accomplished, they drive your trust level in yourself down. And so now that you have a minimal trust, you have no belief, you have no faith. So Trust Your Hustle essentially is going back and, I wouldn't say revisiting your past, but really saying, how can I start from this point forward having successful actions for my life? Like, how can I pick myself up and push far enough past all the headaches, the obstacles, the ups and downs to become this person who achieves these things, to have successes, actionable successes that then translate to me having a trust in my ability, which leads to a belief, which leads to a faith, which allows me to trust my hustle. Hence, Trust Your Hustle.
And how do people do that? Because you just said that, they go home and they say, how do I look back? What do you tell them? What's step one for someone who's listening right now and they're like, well, I do want to trust my successes, but I can't think of any success. What do you tell them to do? What do they
Here's
do?
what I say.
First thing?
So the thing is, you may not be able to pinpoint the exact reasons, but this is what they'll do. They will pop up the second that you start having to do something in the form of an excuse. So the very moment that I'm like, I got to do this, well, I can't because the next word, that's one of your things. It may tie back something different. Well, I can't. Well, why can't you? And then you start, if I ask you that question a couple times, you'd be like, well, it'll eventually bury back to, well, I tried before and I just couldn't do it. So people were like, oh, I can't lose weight. Why? Because I tried a bunch of different diets and never got one done. So you start looking at, oh, well, this may be 7 times I tried the diet and I failed at these diets. So my poor actions minimize my trust in myself. Now, if you don't understand why you have these failures in the past, just think you just can't do it. So when you go back, you can pinpoint those things, and we start dissecting it to see, okay, well, maybe you failed because it was just the wrong choice at the wrong time. Maybe there's something else in your life going on that created the stress, and so the stress made you have this reaction of you just ate. So the diet was counteracted by something else. But most people, they bury it back there and say, oh, well, I just couldn't. It's just the result, not the factors affecting that end result.
So then what do they need to do to then have that next success? Because there has to be a point at which if you're looking back, and I like this, the day that we're having this conversation last night, and I'm going to put this in the show notes at herpowerhustle.com/hustle. We are going to put last night's nightly 90 because I think it was very poignant and it's right on this topic about quitting. And how do you get someone over that point where they get at least, okay, now I look back and, yes, I failed. Every time I've tried this diet or a diet or an action plan, it has failed. How do you get them positioned for a success so that they can begin to build upon that success for the next trust opportunity?
Yeah. So last night I would say go watch that because it'll give you a chance to understand
and I'm going to have that.
Why. But the reason is completely different. So this is what I found. I found that a lot of people, you ever heard of like, what's your why? Like why?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of that. For anybody else, I'm just like, what's your why? Why do you do something? And what I found is I started to dislike the why because the why was cliche. And when I was in the gym, what I dealt with a lot was women that wanted to come in and lose weight. And so in my mind, if you are going to achieve something, you must have a very, very deep-rooted why as to what will push you past when things get hard. Now, I don't call it your why, I call it your lift. And lift means life inside for triumph. And lift is also a word that means elevate. So I have to find out what will give me the life inside to triumph, not to try, but to actually triumph. Because if you don't triumph when something goes wrong on your path to your end result, you'll never have the success. Because it's inevitable. Things are going to happen. It's just part of life. So the why is, this is where I had to struggle with the why. Everybody's like, they can spit it out quick. If I ask you why you do this show, you'll give me some very distinct answer in a couple seconds. It'll sound great, but that is not the reason why you will do it when things get tough, when something happens. And here's how I figured it out. A woman came in to the gym and she says, hey, I want to get in better shape. So I say, well, why do you want to get in better shape? Well, I want to be a little bit healthier. Well, why do you want to be healthier? Well, I want to lose 10 to 15 pounds. Well, why do you want to lose 10 to 15 pounds? Well, I want to be able to get back in these jeans I haven't been able to fit in for, like 10 years. Well, why do you want to get back in these jeans? And as I kept asking the questions, the answers started to come slower, the responses. But when I asked that question about the jeans, what happened is she stopped. This woman looked around to see who was nearby, and quietly she says, because I don't feel like I'm as attractive to my husband anymore, and I think it's hurting my marriage. Mm. So this very specific, deep-rooted reason why, what it was a reason that was so deep and dark, it was embarrassing for her to share in public. Mm-hmm. That was the reason that when it came time for her, when she's tired after work or she hasn't been successful in her diet or whatever it is, when she has to come to work out, that's the reason she'll come to work out, not just I want to be healthy. That's just an arbitrary. It's not deep enough. So when I start saying, how do I get these, like you said, how do I get people to get to the point where they have these successes? They have to realize in advance that something's going to go wrong. I'm not looking and hoping for it, but something's going to pop up, and when it does, you'll notice it. It could be small, it could be large, but at that point, you have to know exactly why you have to overcome it, why you must, why it's an obligation to get past this hurdle, and that's only going to come from that deep-rooted why, that lift, that is so dark and so deep that you don't even want to speak it out in public.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. That's it in a nutshell. So as we sort of wrap up, what is the one thing that you really want audiences who hear you to take away, if nothing else, that they've heard or feel, this one thing when they walk away and go to their car and then wake up the next morning that is still resonating with them?
Well, this is what happens. Everybody wants to have these changes in life, and so this is kind of why I say, like you said at the beginning, to live an unexpected life. Right now, people listen to this, you probably have this very distinct idea of what tomorrow brings, what's expected of you, what you can expect from the world that goes out there. The people who do amazing things in this world, they do the unexpected. The person who made the light bulb, people who make sliced bread, they're the unexpected. Like, you can't do that, but you can, right? And so if you want to have this great thing happen in your life, you must do the unexpected. Like if I wrote down for you on paper everything that has happened from like just my 3 years old to my 14, it would be highly unexpected for me to have done what I did. It just is. If you look at a lot of people who are successes that we look at in the public eye, it's the same concept. And so if I look at it and say they had to do these things that were outside of expectations for themselves as well as the world. And if I want people to leave, like if I want you to leave this with nothing more, it's you can't wake up tomorrow and expect something different to happen without doing unexpected things, which means unexpectedly being positive, like unexpectedly giving, and more so unexpectedly responding to negative situations. Like when something pops up and rears its head, you don't freak out, you don't go crazy, you have to stop and say, what would be the unexpected response to this? Like for me, I had a situation where this guy tried to cut me off, and then behind me, he's yelling out his window, so I roll my window down, and he literally says, "Learn to drive, you effing nigger." And I'm like, wow, So my initial response is, I'm an NFL linebacker. I'm going to kill this person, first one. But then I step back and I say, you know what? What kind of day did this guy have to have for him to have to say that to someone?
Right. What happened to you?
So,
right. Exactly.
Yeah, and I had this sense of empathy, like I almost felt for the guy.
Passion.
And that is a completely unexpected response to have in that situation compared to probably, 99% of people would do complete opposite, fly off the handle. So I live a life that is unexpected. I do things like tell someone I can have something that takes 3 weeks done in a week and a half. Right. It's unexpected. So if you leave this with nothing more, tomorrow when somebody wakes up, tomorrow when you guys who listen to this wake up, do not go through the same expected process you do and expect to have a different result. If you're not where you want to be, you must change. Everyone around you will be like, what in the world are you doing? It'll be an unexpected decision, unexpected choice. But if you want to have looked back in your life and said, I would have never expected I could achieve that, then you must right this very moment start doing unexpected things in your life. You have to, because if you don't, you're not going to get the end result you want. You may think you want it, but it'll take too long to get there, and you won't like the result because it'll be this thing you kind of arbitrarily get sucked into because life took hold of you. You must make changes unexpectedly at this moment to have a difference where you want it to be later.
Mr. Trucks, I have one last question for you, and it's because it didn't work its way into our conversation, but I really think it's a very important piece that I want our listeners to hear because it's sort of along the lines of unexpected. You closed your shop. You closed your gym. You've gone on a journey. You are a public speaker. You are creating products and consulting and helping people trust their hustle and teaching them how to trust their hustle. You also made an investment in yourself that was unexpected financially. So just, I want to take a minute just to talk about investing in yourself for the outcome now you can expect because you've done something unexpectedly. Tell us about that.
So I was telling you before we changed over is I, in the last probably 8 months, spent $70,000 of my own money on seminars. 70 on traveling, like learning, consulting, or consultants. I'm sorry, online programs, just everything I can because at the end of the day, I realized in my gym, like the best way to get better is to shorten the curve. Like it's literally, you hear all the time in products they sell, like, oh, it's an investment. It's only an investment if you apply it. First off, like if you expect to buy something and that just buying it makes you money, you're fooling yourself. So the reality is, everything I spend money on, I apply it immediately, and then it makes itself back. And so in that capacity, you literally have to. If not, you will fall behind in everything. Like you'll think, like for me, if I had closed the gym and decide I'm going to figure it out on my own, I would not be where I'm at right now. There's no way, because I wouldn't have learned what I've learned. I wouldn't be able to contact. I wouldn't know you. And little things like this, they push my brand out more, which gets more eyes and it brings more income. So things like joining Soga, where we've met, B School. I've done Brendan Richard's Extras Academy, High Performance Academy. I've done World's Greatest Speaker. I've done 10X Empire. I've gone to Awesomeness Fest. I'm trying to make my way to world domination at some point, like things you would typically never see a former NFL player, fitness guy even close to. So I push out into the world because, one, I find beauty in learning and meeting new people. But two, it's amazing. This is the way I look at the world: is you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know, you don't know it. So I'm trying to find what I don't know, and the more I reach out, the more I see. But it can't happen if I protect my pocketbook, because I can let that money sit in an account and I can look at it. It looks all nice. But if I want it to grow, to be able to provide for my family what I want to provide for my family, I have to deplete it a little bit to invest to have that thing grow bigger later.
Right, and it's only an investment when there's a return. I mean, and that's the bottom line. And you are creating an opportunity for there to be a return exponentially on the financial and the relational investments that you're making. And I just really wanted to make sure that, our audience understood that, heard that, and got that piece of your story as well. That, it's not just he closed shop and said, okay, I'm going to start doing this. He's really investing in himself to be able to have the tools, the relationships, the mindset shifts that maybe still are necessary, because I think we're all ever evolving beings. And one thing that I would like to say, we're both African American, we're both Black, and we are able to operate in mainstream quote-unquote worlds as well as our worlds where people look just like us. And I think that is a very wonderful gift to have. It may not always feel like a gift growing up when you're being made fun of for being different somehow, but it serves you well when you want to serve others. When you want to spend your life in service to others, you get it, and it all comes together. And I want to make sure our listeners get that piece of it too. And
couldn't have said it any better.
Oh, I know you couldn't have, because I said it. Cocky much?
It's all right.
Seriously, though, I want to make sure, do you have any final parting words before I ask you the ultimate final question of the conversation? Do you have any parting words? You've said really great stuff, and I know that our listeners are full. So I have to ask you the most difficult question that I ask our male guests. What is your favorite song or movie about romance or love? And love can be any kind of love. That's why I say romance or love.
Interesting.
Song or movie?
Not Brokeback Mountain.
Hi, this is Kemi Shogunle. Join me on May 8, 2015 at 9 p.m. Eastern on Love, Sex, Lies, and Reality Talks with my special guest, Paul Carrick Brunson. Paul will be answering your questions on love, dating, and relationships. To find out how you can register for this free event, visit my website, www.kemishogunle.com, or find me on Facebook.
Thanks, Kemi. And now back to our conversation with Anthony.
What is your favorite song or movie about romance or love? And love can be any kind of love. That's why I say romance or love.
Interesting.
Song or movie?
Not Brokeback Mountain.
Okay, thank you for sharing. It was a beautiful love story, by the way. It really was.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it. No specific purpose. I just never saw it.
Okay. I
live in the Bay Area, so it's a topic that I guess we speak about openly. No. What would be the favorite? I don't quite know. I'm a movie buff. I watch a ton of movies. I just don't know if I've ever watched. If I had to step top of my head, one of you were holding a gun in my head, I'd probably say Love and Basketball, because it combines athletes and sports, and it's a good movie. It has a lot of weird dynamics, because again, like the funny part in that one is I didn't think about till just now is me and my wife are now back together in a weird twist of fate. I don't know how it happened, but we're back together, and in that movie that happens. It gets to the point where, they're together, they separate, he gets with somebody, I was with a girlfriend, she had a boyfriend, and then at the end they make their way back together.
See? Now that's probably never come out on a radio show before either.
It didn't, no. Lots of firsts here going on.
Good. That's how it's supposed to be. I love that. Well, Anthony Trucks, trust your hustle. We trust you. We trust your hustle. Can't wait to see, the next phase. Please tell our listeners who have pen and paper handy where they can find you, and for those who don't, they know that they can get this information at herpowerhustle.com/hustle.
Hassle. You can just my website is anthonytrucks.com. It's really simple. It's how it's spelled, Anthony, then Trucks, and I'm a very active guy. I'm not the guy who's like behind a whole bunch of staff answering emails. Like I'm active, so if people have questions, you can always go there and shoot me an email. My social media links are on the homepage, so you can also check all my stuff out there. And I do my nightly 90. I'm going to film one in a little bit here and then load it later. But yeah, I'm a regular person. I'm a regular guy. I involve myself. Guy. You can find me there. Regular guy.
Awesome.
I just
awesome.
hang out.
And I'm definitely going to have a link to last night's nightly. Why am I having trouble saying nightly 90? I'm going to have a link to that. You'll be able to watch that, but you can definitely get all the information to watch Anthony's nightly 90. And then you do something on Fridays too, don't you? There's something else. You do little video vignettes. And what these are video vignettes that give you something to think about with regard to what you're doing with your own life. That's what we're referring to.
Yeah, so the nightly 90s, they go on my website, my blog. So if you go on my blog, all this stuff's on there. And then I do every Wednesday what's called the Hump Day Hustle series. It's a video where it's like a training, so to speak. And so you can actually, you can get the transcripts I have done on there. I put on a podcast, you listen to the audio, but the video is also there from YouTube, but it's all on the blog. And then Friday, I do what's called a Friday recap. So I send out everything I did that week. I do memes during the week, like little pictures that tie to the videos. So basically every week has a theme. So I give little pictures with quotes, and you have all stuff. But on Friday, if you subscribe to my email list, I have a random thought or just something that's off my heart every morning. So I wake up Friday morning. My one thing is write the email and send it out. So I don't pre-schedule them. I don't have them batched up. I literally, however I feel that day, I get up, I talk, and I usually the messages get received very well from people. I get feedback from people that I never even knew read my emails. But the emails go out, videos are there, and it's cool. Simple.
That's awesome. Well, Anthony Trucks, thank you so much for taking the time to hang with us here at Her Power Hustle. And as soon as we met, and I said, wait, your company's called what? You got to come on the show.
It's true. Yep.
I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. I think it's an amazing journey, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it going forward. I'm really excited. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
I really hope you got some great takeaways from my conversation with Anthony. Anthony really has some great insight about how we can sort of take our game to the next level. And I think sometimes when we work with trainers, we feel like they're so ripped up on, physically. And he really pays attention to both the outer being and the inner being. And I really appreciate that about him. Just want to take a quick second today as I am recording this. I don't know if you've ever had to face challenges in your life, but I know that, we all do. It's tongue-in-cheek for me to even say that. And today I found out that my PayPal account was hacked and completely emptied. And what relevance that has to this conversation, the reason that I'm saying it now, is because it was my business PayPal account. I was really excited and happy. I just gotten the debit card for the account and feeling like things were moving forward at a really good clip professionally. And, money has been deposited into that account based on hard work that I've put in. And in a matter of hours, someone who didn't put any work or effort into putting the money in there really just wiped it out. Unfortunately, I'll be able to get the funds back. It'll be a delay, but I'll be able to get the funds back. But I say this to say to you that sometimes it feels like when we are just really hitting our stride or just about to hit our stride or on the precipice of hitting our stride, we get hit, and not by our stride, but by something, someone, something that just almost makes us possibly want to quit. I'm not saying this made me want to quit, but I will say it frustrated me and it angered me, and I'm still a bit shaken up by it because, it also happened because I got an email and I was multitasking and I wasn't paying attention fully. And I really feel like sometimes we just have to take a moment, take a breath, focus on what we're working on, and also know that, yes, bad things will come, and when they do, we can't let them completely knock the wind out of our sails. I am also reading a book right now that I'm going to put in the show notes. I actually posted it on Facebook because I really believe that it's something that can change our lives through mindset, and it's called The Big Leap. And really what it's talking about is fear of failure and how we can sometimes self-sabotage or expect bad things will happen, and therefore we don't prepare for the best. and that when the best does happen or something really good happens, we almost sabotage it in a way that takes us back to our comfort zone. It's almost like we have a comfort zone, not necessarily of mediocrity, but a comfort zone of discomfort almost, or a comfort zone of not being fully successful in our finances, in our relationships, and in our careers and other areas of our lives. And so I'm going to put that in the show notes as well at herpowerhustle.com/hustle, because if you, like me, struggle from time to time with, you feel successful and you want it, you really want it, you're working toward it, but sometimes it's scary. And, even just this past week, I spoke at Blogger Week, and it was a little scary to stand up in front of a crowd. I still struggle with that from time to time in terms of speaking in front of a crowd. I have no problem speaking on a mic and no problem speaking one-on-one. But as soon as the full spotlight is focused on me, all eyes on me, I don't mind all ears on me, but all eyes on me is different. And so I just wanted to take a moment here at the end of the show just to say to you to keep hustling, keep focused. Things will happen. That's what we're all here for, to be able to support one another in the community, as well as, just really have a place where we can share best practices as well as our fears and struggles. So please never hesitate to reach out to me, Michelle at herpowerhustle.com. And of course, we're on all social media platforms at Her Power Hustle. I say all. It feels like all, but that's a different topic for another day. So if you enjoyed the show, and even if you didn't enjoy the show, head over to herpowerhustle.com/iTunes and you can drop us a review if you'd like. Otherwise, we will see you on the next episode. I look forward to chatting with you then. And in the meantime, her hustle is real.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Her Power Hustle podcast, produced and hosted by Michelle Talbert, with voiceover talent by Sean Belton and music by Taman Hade. All of the resources discussed on this episode can be found on the Her Power Hustle website. That's at herpowerhustle.com.